the active modes of transportation. This is cycling, walking, other means of transportation. Maybe not our biggest deal, but also very important. Could you elaborate on where we're headed here?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair and Senator Pavley, my name is Susan Branson, Executive Director for the California Transportation Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Today, I read, the staff report and your agenda items and wanted to respond to the issues that were set forth in that agenda, but I wanted to start off by providing you with an overview of where we are with the Active Transportation Program. This statute was passed in 2013 for purposes of encouraging use of active modes of transportation such as walking and biking. It requires that the Commission adopt a 4-year program of projects every other year, and it does require that Caltrans administer the program. The Commission has found that there's a tremendous need for active transportation projects throughout California. To date, the Commission has received nearly 1,400 project applications requesting $2 billion in active transportation funds. The Commission has programmed 472 projects to date with $727 million worth of active transportation funds. These projects are valued at $1.5 billion, meaning that we've leveraged other state, federal, and local funds of $774 million. The projects that were selected and programmed by the Commission are those projects expected to provide the greatest overall benefit to California with respect to the goals of the Active Transportation Program. The applications were evaluated and scored by independent technical evaluators in addition to Commission staff. And the scoring criteria was developed with input from more than 700 interested stakeholders throughout the state. There's been a great deal of attention and response to this program. So the projects that were programmed are expected to significantly increase biking and walking throughout the state. 246 of these projects will provide safe routes to schools, and nearly 400 projects will provide benefits to disadvantaged communities. Also, a majority of these projects provide last mile, first mile connection to transit, helping to complete the system. So in the agenda for today, there was a question raised as to how the projects will be evaluated after completion to ensure that the program is achieving the desired results. The Commission has required that the agencies receiving these funds will provide a final delivery report 1 year after the projects become operable, and that they will be reporting back to the Commission on whether or not the project performance objectives were achieved. So it'll be a comparison between the application and the benefits that were derived from the project. Caltrans is also, the Commission is calling upon Caltrans to conduct audits of these projects, the implementing agencies to the degree to which compliance was achieved with the contract terms, scope, schedule. And just wanted to let you know that as of today, we've only been allocating funds for 15-16 and this current year. And so a majority of the projects have not been completed. They're still undergoing the construction and carrying out the work. And so we don't have a lot of data at this point to report to the legislature, but we are including information in each of our annual reports to the legislature on how these projects are performing, the benefits of the program, our evaluation of whether the guidelines and the scoring criteria need to be changed, and information to improve this program as a continuous measure that we're taking. We do expect more data as these projects come to completion, that we will be able to provide the legislature with more information in our future annual reports. The agenda also for the meeting today did question whether the Commission is adequately staffed to evaluate the projects. And I wanted to let you know that we are currently continuing to assess our needs, our workload within the Commission on an ongoing basis. This program is a labor-intensive effort, and just wanted to let you know we are assessing our workload needs at this point in time. The agenda also asked about the advantages and disadvantages of a 2-year versus a 4-year program of projects Right now, as I mentioned earlier, the law requires a 4-year program of projects adopted every other year. There's benefits to both. A longer, having a 4-year period allows folks to plan. If they know that they're going to have funding in the 4th year for construction, they may be more willing to take their own funds for the pre-construction components. A 2-year cycle enables the ability for cities, counties to, if they had, say, a fatality on the way to a school, to immediately elevate that project as their highest priority to get it in a program sooner. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Wanted to let you know that, we are, at the commission, we operate a very transparent and open process. As I mentioned, we have more than 700 folks involved in this. This has not been a concern that has been risen and elevated, at least to me. And so at this point in time, we're not recommending a change in the programming cycle. We will continue to assess the program. If that becomes something that, we would seek a legislative change, we would bring that to the legislature's attention. Another question in the agenda was with respect to disadvantaged communities. The law requires that 25% of this program, the funds, go to projects that benefit disadvantaged communities. In the statewide rural and urban components, 85% of the projects that we've programmed funding to has benefited or will benefit disadvantaged communities. We're attributing this to the tremendous needs by the disadvantaged communities for projects such as Safe Routes to Schools. Even if we had given no points, so in our scoring criteria, we are giving points to projects that provide benefit to disadvantaged communities. We went back to look, if we had not assigned any points to disadvantaged communities, we would have ended up with 67% of the projects funded would have benefited disadvantaged communities, showing us that there is a tremendous need out there. So while we don't see that there's an issue with providing funding to projects over and above that 25% threshold, we have to work with the stakeholders. We have revised our scoring criteria for disadvantaged communities to make sure we're assigning those points to projects that are severely disadvantaged and where we can show a greater benefit to benefit to the disadvantaged communities. So it's more of a point scaling as opposed to just a flat number of points. And then the last issue that was raised in your agenda materials was with respect to the Technical Assistance Resource Center. This center is, this program, or this element of the program, is funding that the Commission provides to Caltrans. And it's intended to provide a resource for the applicants of these funds to go to Caltrans, go through the Department of Public Health, and get information to help them move their projects forward. It's also, we see it as a very important tool for the data collection that's necessary to report back to the Commission on the performance of the program. We are working with Caltrans to further refine the scope of works for these funds before we would give them additional funds. As an example, they requested, I believe, $9 million for this resource center. The Commission has programmed only $3.5 million to date for this program because we're working together on a more refined scope of work. So it's an important element of the program, but we want to make sure that there's a clear understanding of what will be accomplished through this resource center, and that it will provide the greatest level of benefit to the applicants involved. So with that, members, that concludes my comments. Okay.
You noted a lot of projects not completed. What is causing the lack of completion? They're permitting or funding or technical? What's causing the delays?
Okay, so our initial programming, well, to keep it kind of simple, so we program multi-years, 4 years. And so the program initiated when we first started allocating funds in 15-16, so just last year. So if you're, some of the allocations may have been for pre-construction, and then I'll give you an example. The commission right now is at a town hall in Butte County. And last night I was speaking with an engineer that was moving forward a active transportation project in the city of Biggs. And it's a safe routes to school sidewalk between 2 schools and a parking lot where parents can drop off their children. They can walk safely to school. It'll decrease risk to these kids. And I asked him about his project, and he said that it's, this is a disadvantaged community. It's a wonderful project for them. And they've so far moved from 15-16 allocations, getting the project designed, gone through environmental, getting that work done. And we just allocated construction. And he's told me that construction will only take a few months. And then he will be reporting back to the commission on how whether or not the benefits of the overall project were achieved. So we're asking for a year after the project is finished so that these applicants can go back and count the data, tell us, did this project increase walking and bicycling to the school? Did it provide the community benefits that were expected? And if we find that, it's not increasing the number of biking and walking, that the numbers aren't up, we needed the commission to go back and look at our project evaluation criteria and how we're scoring those projects to see if there's better questions that we could be asking about the projects, because it is a competitive program. The projects that we have selected for funding are those that rose to the top, given the need. So the reason why we don't have more data is that these projects are just getting off the ground, and there takes time to get the count data and the information back reported to us. This is, and I should also mention that Caltrans administers the program, so we look to Caltrans to give us that data. They're working with the actual project applicants.
This is but a very tiny community. Now, would this mean that on the 4-year plan, we would not get any evaluation on the success till the 5th year then out? Am I calculating that right?
Well, so in 15-16, let's just say, if we allocated a project for construction and it's constructed, if it only takes a couple months, sometimes these projects might take a year to construct. So, but assuming a 15-16 project was constructed and ready to go, we would we would want to see that project operate in operation for a year. So at the end of 16-17, we should be getting a report from that agency on whether or not the outcomes of that project were achieved consistent with the application provided. So there's a year lag from the time in which a project's completed to a time in which we would receive a report. And that resource center that I mentioned, that's where some of these disadvantaged communities, it's actually difficult for them to even get the counts. And, we're working with Caltrans to see, can they, and I know that they're working on this, are there tools that they can provide to these disadvantaged communities to help them get that data collected sooner? Because we need to make any program changes possible.
Now, does each project have a schedule, guidelines, benchmarks, like a normal construction project?
It does, and so that's something else that we're monitoring and we're asking for reporting back on. Every project is set, it's programmed for a specific time period. There's a schedule set for the project in the application when the project will be delivered. The commission has set timely use of funds because of the competitive nature, and just generally we do that anyway. So if a project is programmed in 15-16, that project needs to come in and request an allocation. We do allow a time extension, but it's a shorter period than what we would allow for this, like the State Transportation Improvement Program. So we hold these applicants accountable and responsible for delivering on their commitments, and then the audit is required. We're asking Caltrans to conduct audits to also audit against that set out schedule, scope, and the cost, and all of that. So
there are enforceable deliverables. And what are the penalties if they don't deliver?
Well, and I may call Lori Waters up here, but I know that we, in our guidelines, we are, and maybe I'll ask her, I don't know if we left that in at one point, because we keep revising our guidelines to make them better, but we had, for applicants that don't deliver, They may receive less points for their projects in the future. Yes, in the scoring. And so let me introduce you to Lori Waters. She's Associate Deputy Director at the Commission. Lori.
Do I have to turn it? Okay. So the question is if they're having delivery.
They don't deliver.
Okay, then it's possible that they have a certain amount of time to get the funds and use them, and if they don't follow those, then the funds could lapse. And then we do monitor their performance for the future cycles of the ATP, and they could get a point reduction for if they come in for future projects.
That means a point reduction on a future bid?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, at least there's some kind of an accountability. Now, tell me about your data collection. How do you keep the data on the projects?
For when in the application process, we ask for current and proposed counts for the biking and walking, so we can see what's happening in the project area now and what they're hoping to achieve in the future. And then in that final report, they will also provide those counts to see if they have achieved those benefits that they have said that they could achieve.
So there would be a projected number of bikers or walkers
Yes.
or whatever, then they do an actual
Right. Yes.
survey, or you will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then that's all reported. And how often
Right.
would those reports, that data be collected?
We ask for a one-year count and then a 5-year count. So then they will provide that 1 year in that report, that the final report that they would submit.
And the last thing I'd like to defer to Senator Pavley, go over again your argument on the 2 versus 4. Why would we not want to go 2-year instead of 4?
Well, I think it's a question really for the stakeholders out there. Do they want to know that they have funding committed? Say if they're going to put their own money forward to do there's so much competition for this program. So if they want to develop a project and move it forward, environmental design, and get it ready because they know that they'll have construction dollars in that 4th year, projects that score equally, but the ones ready for construction score a little higher because they're ready to move. And so that would be a benefit to those projects. The 2-year, as I mentioned, it's a question whether we get, because we're programming so far out, if there was something to happen in a community and they want to bring that project forward for immediate funding, that 4-year program is a disadvantage. At this point, though, we are in a process, we're following the statute requires that we adopt by April 1st of every odd year. Is that correct? Yes. And at this point, we have a call for projects, actually, that is tomorrow, I think is the date, and we'll be moving forward to add 2 new years to the program that we currently have. So if we move to a 2-year program, I think it would be around the 2021 timeframe before we would, because we would have programmed out. Let me look at my notes here.
Because for this next cycle, it's a 2017 cycle, but the funds that we'll have available aren't ready till 2020 and 2021. So the available funding is quite far out from the actual programming of the projects.
So I think the issue is we will have a program out to 2021. So as the immediate need to convert this to a 2-year program, we have time to assess and evaluate this program and seek input from the stakeholders. Now that we know that this is a concern of this committee, it's something that we have a number of people involved in working with us. It's something that we'll take back and see, what are the advantages, disadvantages? Would it be right to propose it would require a legislative change to move to a 2-year program. And so it's something that, we will definitely look into. Okay.
Before we go to analysts and finance, Senator Pavley, any questions?
I do not. It's informational, and I
Yeah, okay.
appreciated hearing about it.
Analyst, any observations here?
Jessica Peters with the Analyst's Office. This is an informational only item. As Senator Pavley just indicated, we don't have any recommendations.
Finance, anything you have to offer?
James Hacker, Department of Finance. We would just reiterate what the commission already said, that this is a very young program and we're only just now starting to get data on project outcomes. So we look forward to working with the commission to analyze that data before we move forward.
Oh, yes. Thank you. And let's ask, do we have any public comment? We have not asked for public comment yet. Anyone in the public? Looks like we've got some folks wanted to come up here. Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Senator Pavley. I'm Jeannie Wardwaller with the California Bicycle Coalition, also here with a number of my colleagues representing the Coalition for Active Transportation Leadership. We really want to thank the CTC and Caltrans first off for all their hard work on the program. As Susan said, it's been a really labor-intensive effort. These projects are projects that have a lot of support from the community, take a huge amount of community involvement to prepare, and then also there's a pretty extensive review process. So the staff have been really terrific, and I know all of us and many others, many hundreds of others as stakeholders that support this program have put, many, probably hundreds of hours into volunteering our time to support the guidelines process, the application review process, and some of us serve on the technical advisory committee that kind of reiterates and continues to make sure the program is being effective in achieving its goals. We've seen several hundred good projects get funded in the first 2 rounds, which is really exciting for the state of California. But roughly 3 to 4 times that many projects are not funded each year. So I think one of the things that we're appealing to you today is that the funding for this program represents roughly about 1% of our state transportation investments. Yet there's really a huge need statewide to be getting people out of their cars, be getting them to use more healthy, sustainable modes, and communities, I think every community in this state needs more of these projects. As such, we really encourage putting more funding towards this program, and I think specifically we would ask for the $100 million that the January budget has proposed for low carbon roads, which we think is mostly duplicative of what the active transportation program already does, to be put into this program instead. This is a existing popular effective program and is already set up. We've invested all this work in it, so we would support that instead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kula Koenig on behalf of the American Heart Association, American Stroke Association. We come at this from a public health perspective, supporting increased funding for the active transportation program, as Jeannie mentioned, instead of the proposed low carbon roads, but specifically for the Safe Routes to School program. So when we look at how much our state is, the cost to our state from obesity, inactivity, from physical activity, and also diabetes, we look at a $41 billion cost to our state. So if we can actually put some more funding into the Safe Route to School program, we get a lot of benefits. We get folks being able to less traffic, to be able to walk and bike to school. We get increased physical activity. We get increased cohesion within communities. And also students are ready to get to school and they focus better when they get there, having exerted some energy from walking and biking. For all those reasons, we ask for additional funding to these programs. Thank you.
Good morning, Erica Rincon-Whitcomb on behalf of PolicyLink. Just want to really commend and thank the CTC and Caltrans and the legislature for all their leadership and commitment to ensuring equity in the active transportation program. We believe that that California should be really proud that we have exceeded the minimum funding allocation of the 25% to disadvantaged communities, given longstanding disinvestment and neglect in these communities, and the fact that close to half the state's population resides in these neighborhoods, that this is really ensuring an equitable allocation, that we're really delivering safe and healthy infrastructure to these places. Also really want to second the previous asks for additional funding in the active transportation program. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Bill Sadler. I'm with the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. Like my colleagues before, and you'll hear from a few others, we are very supportive of the active transportation program. Our mission is to increase the number of children that are walking and biking to school and make it safer for those that already are. And this program is the primary funding mechanism to provide the infrastructure, non-infrastructure, and planning projects that make it safer for kids to walk and bike to school across California. So we have been active participants in the process to set up this program and shape the guidelines, and we want to grow this program. Like previous speakers said, this program's heavily oversubscribed. We see over $1 billion in each cycle. We want to see more money going to it. The Low Carbon Roads program is duplicative in many ways, and we see that ATP needs to grow in some way, and that's one potential source. And I also want to voice strong support for the non-infrastructure and planning components of the ATP. In addition to funding actual, concrete sidewalks and bike lanes, this also funds education and encouragement programs and planning projects that identify community needs that down the line you can fund the infrastructure. And this is especially important for Safe Routes to School, where getting kids educated and encouraged to walk and bike to school can make them lifelong walkers and bicyclists as well to school and in daily life. And I also wanted to voice strong support for the Active Transportation Resource Center. As the director mentioned, this center's kind of gone through some changes. Even before ATP, they were a big technical resource for Safe Routes to School and other types of programs. So we want to see that center continue and thrive and be able to provide assistance to communities across California. And finally, I just wanted to address the timing of cycles, the 2 versus 4 year. From our perspective, on a lot of our projects, 2 year is a better approach to go, especially with Safe Routes to School and some of the more non-infrastructure, where these communities and schools are now being told with this upcoming cycle that they're not going to get funding for 2 to 3 years. And if you think of that from a school perspective, many of the students that are at those schools will not benefit because they will be gone by then. So, and especially in the case of, if someone's hit by a car, it's a long time to wait. And so we would prefer that a 2-year cycle be implemented. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Tony Dang, representing California Walks, and I just wanted to reiterate our plea to you all to redirect the $100 million from the Low Carbon Roads program to the Active Transportation program, because again, it is duplicative, and we have overwhelming need and interest and desire to support walking and biking in the state. In addition to funding for the actual program, I'd like to urge you all to consider increasing staffing for the program. I want to commend CTC and Caltrans for doing an amazing job juggling lots of interests in the program. But as these programs are being constructed and the data collection needs come online, the CTC and Caltrans are going to need a lot of staffing to manage that. Lastly, I just want to urge you all to consider putting more oversight on the technical assistance. As you've heard, Caltrans has identified over $9 million in technical assistance needs, but they only have about $3 million to work with. And so some sort of direction in terms of prioritizing that technical assistance, particularly to low resource communities and disadvantaged communities, to ensure that they're successful not only in applying, but also in delivering the projects is absolutely needed. Thank you.
Good morning, Chuck Mills, representing California Relief. We also want to echo many of the comments made by our colleagues today regarding staffing needs and technical assistance and support for the program, but also want to focus on one small but important aspect of the program that's referenced in the subcommittee analysis. As mentioned, the ATP was cobbled together through myriad funding sources, including the Environmental Enhancement and Mitigation Program, which is focused on supporting natural resources. Consequently, the ATP is also a vehicle for recreational trails and connectivity parks. Projects like those that were funded down in LA contribute to the 17-mile interconnected network of existing bikeways, multi-use trails, parks, and greenways along the San Gabriel River, known as the Emerald Necklace, which is often regarded as a nationwide model for melding active transportation with significant green infrastructure. So we join with our colleagues today in requesting a shift from the governor's proposed GGRF expenditure plan from the $100 million for low carbon roads to the successful ATP program, which is severely oversubscribed. Thank you.
Kimberly Chen with the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network. Want to ditto the comments of my colleagues before, and in particular highlight the comments from my colleague from the American Heart Association on the public health benefits of the active transportation program, and respectfully urge this committee to consider increasing funding for the active transportation program. Thank you.
Good morning, Joshua Stark with Transform, an organization that works for equitable and sustainable land use transportation policy. Also a member of the Coalition of Active Transportation Leadership. Would like my comments to reflect the support for this program, a desire to see an increase in funding, in particular in regards to the governor's budget proposal with low carbon roads, to rather invest this money per what Senator Cannella had requested a year or so ago in a separate bill, $100 million to the active transportation program. This program is vital to, in addition to the comments that were stated before, but to meeting those first mile, last mile needs for transit, to provide people with a real way to get around, with real options for getting around. Currently, transportation is the second most expensive portion of a household's budget, and for low income to extremely low income folks in particular, the ability to walk, bike, and take transit is absolutely vital in them saving money and moving up the ladder. I also, as Transform, would like to make a comment with regards to the earlier Transit Intercity Rail and Capital program, we've been asking that the funds that have been proposed by the governor instead be split 50-50 with Transit Intercity Rail Capital, but also 50% going instead to transit operations. The way we achieve greenhouse gas reductions is actually by moving people, not just by building these really large projects. And those projects are very important to the state's goals and vision for getting people real options, but getting them actual service, especially in transit agencies that don't have those direct connections to, these large rail infrastructure projects, are equally vital. And transit operations can move more people in a very short amount of time by investing in bus services that overwhelmingly support low to extremely low commuters to work. For example, in Los Angeles, 73% of commutes to work on buses are by folks going to jobs earning less than $25,000 a year. 77% in the Bay Area, or in San Jose area, commuting by buses are going to jobs earning less than $50,000 per year. So these programs that can very quickly take relatively small amounts of money compared to the GGRF and be spent on bus service improvements, especially into communities that have been disinvested in or see their services cut first when bad financial times hit, is really important to achieving the state's goals, but also to providing real choices for folks to get around. Thank you.
May I inquire of the technical assistance, is this all public technical assistance agency, or their private combination of technical assistance, public and private?